Alrighty then, welcome back YouTube. Today I'm going to be talking about retro tracks. Now, originally I was going to go through each game that had retro tracks and name which one was remade the best and the worst in each of those games, but I did a dangerous thing. I decided to think about it. That idea has been done to death by people, so I want to do something a tad bit different. Instead of looking at a modern entry and judging like all the tracks that it brings back, what if we look at all of the retros that originated from one entry, then pick the worst and best there? Sorry if I explained it bad, but I promise it'll make sense once we jump right into Super Mario Kart tracks. Also, there are going to be some biases, like any ranking on the internet, so if a decision is fully made out of biased thinking, I'll try to mention it. To me, the worst retro of a Super Mario Kart track has got to be SNES Choco Island 2 from the DS. The main thing I'm looking at in this video to find these entries is, did they do anything really good to make it better? Or did they add something that was really bad and makes it worse? Or did it just stay the same? In the case of Choco Island 2, they didn't really change much, but holy cow, the ramps absolutely suck. And look at the mountains in the background. They don't look like chocolate to me. While I am going to try to avoid repeating tracks from my last Mario Kart video, for some tracks it is inevitable. The best retro of a Super Mario Kart track is easily SNES Donut Plains 3 from Mario Kart 8. This is the only SNES track in a mainline entry that has been fully remade from the ground up to not be flat. And while the Rainbow Road remakes are still really fun, they really didn't change anything. They're still flat, the layout's the same, Mario Kart 8 is a little wider, but nothing major. While Donut Plains 3, they did change, like they added a little bit of the water segment with the bridge, and it's not flat, they even added a mushroom shortcut. So they actually did change it. Honestly, Mario Kart 64 tracks tend to be treated quite well in the remakes. The N64 Super Circuit tracks are actually the highlight of the DS Retro tracks. And while the train is less of an obstacle in Mario Kart 7, I didn't want to put Calamari Desert here because it's still a fun track and the train shows up enough. The only track that I could think of that didn't make any positive improvements or stay the same is N64 Toad's Turnpike in Mario Kart 8. Now this isn't to say I dislike the track. In fact, I do enjoy it. But the lanes are way too wide, and the anti-gravity panels on the side are horrible and take away the challenge. And to me, this is the prime example of don't add anti-gravity if it takes the fun out of the course. And this track is an example of why I'm glad they're not trying to force anti-gravity to all the DLC tracks in the Booster Course Pass. Because some tracks just have no fit for anti-gravity, especially in tracks like this in Toad's Harbor, where it takes away from the track. And while Toad's Turnpike is still my least favorite, I will give a dishonorable mention to N64 Sherbet Land from the Wii, as I despise that track. But it also didn't change anything. It's just a direct copy, so I didn't feel like it fit the place as the worst retro, as Toad's Turnpike did make changes that I don't think are good. My favorite N64 retro track was really tough one to choose, as N64 Yoshi Valley from Mario Kart 8 is fantastic, but its additions are relatively small, like Cannon and making Lakitu pick you up faster, which, depending on the person, can be negative or positive. N64 Rainbow Road is also an amazing track, but they should have made it 2 full laps instead of sections, as I feel like that brings it down, as it's just way too short to truly appreciate it. And to be honest, I also really wonder if I have some bias towards Choco Mountain, as the Mario Kart DLC version of N64 Choco Mountain is my favorite N64 retro. I honestly love it in every way. I love the music, I think it looks great, and I enjoy playing it. Which is funny, because when I played every Mario Kart track back in February and early March, and even when I very recently recorded every single mainline Mario Kart track for footage. I just don't like Choco Mountain in Mario Kart 64 DS. I think it's okay in both of those games, but it's one of my favorites in Mario Kart 8. I'm not sure why I like it so much, because like when it was revealed to be in the Booster Course Pass back in the Nintendo Direct in February, I was disappointed they brought it back instead of Calamari Desert or Frappe Snowland. But in Mario Kart 8, I adore this course. Much like Super Mario Kart courses, Super Circuit remakes tend to be flat tracks in most games that have retros. This means that there's no way I'm going to pick GBA Sky Garden for Mario Kart 8 as my pick for the worst retro, is even though they truncated the layout and it is an inferior layout to the original Sky Garden, they still made it not flat and made it look more visually interesting. It's a really fun course in Mario Kart DS, but it's still flat, and that takes away from it compared to something like Waluigi Pinball or Airship Fortress that aren't flat. This being said, I think the real worst retro of a Super Circuit track is GBA Sky Guy Beach from Mario Kart Wii. Not too much has been changed from the original. It's still a fine course, but the problem is, it looks awful. The water looks horrible, and it's still flat. I think this one works worse than the original. I'd rather play it in GBA, honestly, because I think it looks better. And they didn't change the music either. I just think that this is not a good retro. I think a different GBA pick would have been better if they really wanted to just be flat. No, well. Unlike with Mario Kart 64, my favorite Super Circuit retro track was a really easy one to choose. Mario Kart 8 GBA Ribbon Road. This is how you remake a track. Honestly, I don't have much to say, except this feels like a perfect 3D version of the original. Or at least how I would picture a 3D version of the original. The layout's still there, it adds, and it utilizes mechanics that weren't there yet well. It utilizes tricks well, it utilizes glider well, it utilizes anti-grav well, which I don't say a lot. It utilizes all these new mechanics that didn't exist in Super Circuit, and I think it uses them really well. It takes advantage of everything, and it looks glorious. And new shortcuts as well, which I find hard. But I mean, it's supposed to be more of a challenging course, I guess. I think this is genuinely a fantastic remake. An example of what should be done in every Super Circuit and Super Mario Kart track from now on. As much as I hate to say it, it's easy to pick the worst retro of a Double Dash track, is the GS just couldn't handle them well. That being said, between the four that returned on Mario Kart DS, easy pick is GCN Baby Park from the DS. Not only do I just not like this track much to begin with, this version is just so painfully boring with the tame items found in Mario Kart DS, and it's just a flat circle. It feels more like an SNES track than Double Dash. I will say in advance, for when it comes to my favorite retro of a Double Dash track, there's for sure bias, as two tracks both had similar additions and were both treated extremely well when it came to being retros. Both GCN Daisy Cruiser from Mario Kart 7 and GCN Sherbert Land from Mario Kart 8 added a bunch of water to lower parts of the track. That being said, I am going to choose Daisy Cruiser as my favorite. This is mostly because I like the track more, but also because of Sherbert Land, the whole underwater bit was added to the track, taking away an obstacle, while Daisy Cruiser just had a boring area that nobody really wanted to go to, flooded, giving it different advantages over what may be above. Again, this pick is mostly for my own bias, as they are both great remakes, and I can definitely see it going either way on which one's better. Before I continue, I quickly want to say, if you like this video and want to see more content like this, you should like, comment, and subscribe. I also want to take this time to praise some DS and Wii retro tracks, since this video has spent a lot of time ignoring the good retro tracks those games have in favor of kind of calling their retro tracks bad. N64 Frappe Snowland is a great return of a classic N64 track, and honestly there's no downsides, I think, as it really doesn't change anything, which is fine. Frappe Snowland was already a great track, it didn't need additions. And same with N64 Banshee Boardwalk, also from the DS. Does a great job of keeping the mysterious ambience that the original had. There's a lot of fan-made Mario Kart 8 and Mario Kart Wii versions of Banshee Boardwalk that I just don't think are good, because they take away from the mysterious ambience by like adding trees to the background, which is not the point of this track. The DS remake just keeps the boardwalk in the water and just the castle there. I think it is the perfect remake of it. And if they bring this one back into Booster Course Pass, I do not want them to add all the detail that these ROM hack ones have. Not ROM hack. All these fan-made versions have. This is the best version of Banshee Boardwalk. DC and Waluigi Stadium is a blast of Mario Kart Wii thanks to the tricking mechanic. Easily the best version of this track to date. While it is a flat SNES track, SNES Ghost Valley 2 does manage to make the course actually playable with decent controls. Plus, it's one of the few SNES tracks I feel doesn't really need to be changed from being flat if the background is still black. Much like with N64, DS tracks tend to be handled very well when it comes to making retros of them. In fact, I'd say not a single DS retro is a downgrade, which means I just had to look at which one added the least to be what I consider my worst. While I don't care for DK Pass, in Mario Kart 7, they did add a glider section. DSSR Hills also benefits from the tricky mechanic in Wii, which means it's really between what I consider tracks to be that didn't really add much to the original, which are DS Delfino Square and Wii, DS Airship Fortress and Mario Kart 7, and DS Yoshi Falls, also from Wii. Between those three, I actually like two of the courses, then I despise the other, so I'm not going to pick Airship Fortress or Delfino Square as my least favorite because they're amazing tracks. So even though they don't change anything, they're still fantastic courses, while Yoshi Falls is still just a circle. I will say it is more fun with Wii's items than it was with DS's, but it's still a boring circle, really no tricking opportunities. And why did they bring this track back instead of a good one? Definitely a bias there. For picking what I consider to be the best retro of a DS track, I actually went against my own personal bias and chose DS TikTok Clock for Mario Kart 8. As much as I love DS Shroom Ridge from the DLC, all it adds is the glider section and a new shortcut at the end. And while I do find DS Wario Stadium to be a vast improvement of the original due to the trick mechanics, turning what I consider to be a very boring track into one of my favorites in Mario Kart 8, it is undeniable that TikTok Clock got the biggest facelift out of the 16 default retros in Mario Kart 8. Visually, this track is night and day between the original and the Mario Kart 8 version, and I do think the glider section actually does add to the track, instead of taking away from it. And the new location in the item boxes is great, and being able to go in the clock hands is also just fantastic. Wii retros have not been around for long at all. In fact, only two mainline games have them. And both Mario Kart 7 and Mario Kart 8 tend to treat them very well. That being said, there are still two clear picks for the track that received the worst retro treatment, which is Wii Coconut Mall for Mario Kart 8 and Wii Koopa Cape in Mario Kart 7. Frankly, I think the most controversial thing I say in this video is that I actually really like Coconut Mall in Mario Kart 8. Yes, they did remove the moving cars and the signs, but the cars are really the only downgrade to me. I never cared about the cheese grater's chairs, and besides the palm tree, I think the track looks amazing, honestly. With Koopa Cape, I have the opposite problem, oddly enough. I don't like the additions. I don't like the added glider ramp at the beginning of the stream. Going over the stream in the glider section, I think defeats part of the point of the stream. And I also don't like the underwater tube being flowed with water, as it feels way less chaotic, way less fast. But it's still a fantastic course. I still love it. When it eventually gets added to Mario Kart 8, I know they're going to use this version, and that's not that much of a problem. I still think it's great. I just prefer the original Cuba Cape. My favorite retro of a Wii track was instantly between Wario's Gold Mine and Maple Tree Way. While I do think Wii Wario's Gold Mine for Mario Kart 8 makes great use of anti-grav and is a blast to play, I think I prefer Wii Maple Tree Way for Mario Kart 7. I think the Glider Ramp Edition actually works quite well in this track as opposed to Cuba Cape, and I never cared for half pipe, so removing them doesn't bother me at all. And I also think this track, more so than Wario's Gold Mine, benefits from the controls of the modern controls of the franchise of found in 7 and 8, as I've just never been able to get a hang of the handling in Mario Kart Wii. It's probably my fault for that kart selection, but I've never been able to get good grasp of control. Where Mario Kart 7, I find it and Mario Kart 8, I find it very easy to control the kart, and I think in a track like Maple Tree Way that has a lot of railing-less turns, I think that's very useful, and it makes the track a whole lot more fun. Honestly, Mario Kart 7 was the hardest game to decide which tracks were the best and the worst retros, as there really aren't many choices, and they're pretty much identical to Mario Kart 7. For this reason alone, though, I chose 3DS Toad Circuit for Mario Kart 8, as it's just the worst track they brought back. I don't hate it or anything, I just wish they brought back a better course instead of it. I do gotta praise the lighting here, though, as I love the lighting of when the course first starts. Mario Kart 8 truly has an amazing lighting engine. To me, the best retro of Mario Kart 7 track is Piranha Plant Slide. While this is far from my favorite Mario Kart 7 track in Mario Kart 8, it is the one with the most changes, as the entire underwater section is different for some reason. Again, another reason with this one, they just changed it the most. And Music Park, Neo Bowser City, and DK Jungle really didn't have any changes except for one anti-gravity section in DK Jungle. Nothing else, really. So, obviously, I can't really discuss what retros of Mario Kart 8 tracks are the best, because, well, it's got a couple more years in it, I guess. So instead, I'm going to talk about the retros of tour tracks found in Mario Kart 8, at least as of May 2022. Which feels real weird to say, as tour released after Mario Kart 8, but anyways, let's jump into Ninja Hideaway. Frankly, the only reason this track is considered the worst is because they changed nothing. And they didn't need to change anything. This track is amazing. It does have a couple of weird turns that they didn't change from tour, but I mean, besides that, this track just didn't get changed, which is why it's worst retro. It does nothing great to change it, it does nothing bad to change it, it's still just the amazing track it always has been. So, I consider the best retro of a tour track, it was between the two city tracks, as they are the ones that change the most, as they combine multiple tracks into one track, which I think is really cool. So even if I prefer Ninja Hideaway over these two tracks, it definitely is between Paris Promenade and Tokyo Blur for this one. Between those two, I chose Paris Promenade just because I like it more. I know my discussion on retros from tour is really short, but I imagine we're going to be getting a whole lot more of those by the end of 2023, so we'll have to come back to those. Anyways, I'd love to hear your thoughts on your favorite and least favorite retro tracks down below. Have a great day. And